Hello.
Hi again. Genesis chapter 29. We're going to read the marriage arrangements and
Or choices. Yeah.
choices. Yeah, because it doesn't work out the way Jacob thinks it's going to work out, this trip to get a wife in his relatives' circle.
Right. So Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. A large stone was on the well's mouth. Now all the flocks would be gathered there. They would roll the stone from the well's mouth, water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. And Jacob said to them, "My brethren, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." Then he said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." So he said to them, "Is he well?" They said, "He is well. And look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep." Then he said, "Look, it is still high day. It is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep."
While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled a stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, "Surely you are my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him a month.
Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel's was beautiful of form and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed only a few days to him, because of the love he had for her.
Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, that I may go into her, for my time is completed." So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" Laban said, "It is not so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also in return for serving me another 7 years." Jacob did so, and completed her week. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel to be her servant. So Jacob went in to Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban for another 7 years. Even the little hints that something bad's going to happen here, because the 2 maidservants are brought into the story already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you have seen in this story when you were a Jehovah's Witness young lady?
Well, I think the picture was kind of a romantic one. So when you're a young girl, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, what a nice romantic story. 7 years seemed like days to him. How lovely, right? So it was a bit of a shock to me later in studying Genesis to realize that the difference was that Leah, I always favored Rachel and thought, she's, and then because of Joseph's story, you think he's the good guy in the story, he's the chosen one of God and that. But it's through Leah that the line comes. It's her sons are actually favored with many blessings from the Lord.
See, Levi and Judah. We'll get into more of that later.
So the spiritual blessings come to not his favored children.
So why didn't we see what's obviously the point of the story in context, which is this contrast of how he chose Rachel over Leah? First of all, yours says Leah's eyes were delicate. Mine says weak, and most of the commentaries make the point, as Gerhard von Rad does, that in this culture of the Near East, a woman with flashing eyes has definite advantages over a rather dull woman.
Yeah. Well, you've seen the pictures of that. They make up their eyes beautifully, and they usually have dark eyes and,
So it doubles down
eyes.
on the reason that Jacob makes this choice. It says not only that did she have the eyes that appealed to him, but she was beautiful in form and appearance.
Yeah.
So Leah not being favored comes out later in the story as a very important point of the narrative.
Yeah. Now he's making this choice after 1 month of being with them too. So I think the only thing that's commented on is physical attributes.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing that comes to my mind is we remember how Rebecca was chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Abraham's servant that comes.
Not Isaac.
And he doesn't just look at appearance. He mentions that she's good looking. But his concern, before he even sees her, is he prays to God for help in it being the right one.
The right one.
That is picked. And he makes he asks God to show whether or not she is hardworking, hospitable, kind, patient. There's a lot of attributes that are demonstrated by what he asked the Lord to show him.
Nothing like that here.
No, you don't even hear anything of him inquiring of God as to which should be his bride. He's going with the physical attributes, it seems like.
So in the context of the story, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, this one looks bad compared to the way Abraham and Eliezer, presumably the steward, brought Rebecca into the family.
Yeah.
And then you've got, of course, the culmination of this sequence, which is the deception.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, I think it's kind of an irony there, because he just had to leave home because he had deceived his father.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of come back for him to feel it, what it's like to be deceived.
So that's a Bible principle. It's in the New Testament as well as the Old. You reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
And so the deception that's in the family line, it was there before.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's in Rebecca, so no surprise it's in Laban.
Yeah.
So if that's the way that the family does stuff and plots and the machinations of their even a family arrangement like a wedding or a marriage is all being set up by Laban's deception. Does Jacob have any idea he's going to be 14 years achieving getting the wife he wants?
Yeah. So I mean that too is he's thinking he's going to be away only for a little short time. So even the deal he struck for 7 years is quite a long time, but he has no idea it's going to be twice that for him to get the woman he wanted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what F.B. Meyer has to say about all of this, and I've put the head or the statement, the principle up front. The problem with human bilateral covenants, they start from self-interest, like all of this is from self-interest. Laban's self-interest and Jacob and Rebecca's self-interest. They start, that is, bilateral covenants, start from self-interest, a self-serving spirit which will stoop to deceit. And F.B. Meyer says, next to the love of God comes the love of man or woman as a factor in the education of a human spirit. Each one of us is capable of giving out a vast wealth of love. We must love and be loved, and almost everything depends on the twin spirit whom we choose as the object of our affection. And as the hearth at whose fires we may warm ourselves when chilled and repelled by an unfriendly world, that love may make or mar us, may transfigure or degrade us, and which it shall be is settled by the objects whom we choose, and the way in which we treat them. Jacob's encounter with Rachel at the first well he came to reminds us that though there is nothing more important than the union of heart with heart, there is nothing into which people drift more heedlessly. A fancy, a look, a smile, a touch, a moment's talk in a crowded room amid the excitement of an evening's gaiety. Any of these is deemed sufficient to justify a choice which may affect the destiny of the spirit forevermore.
Yeah.
And needless to say, the family.
Yeah. So I do think marriage is a very important step, and people, when you're young, you're more romantically inclined. You're more inclined to be looking at physical attributes and not thinking that that's not going to last forever. And, what is this person like as a person? Are they kind? Will they be good with children? How do they treat their parents, their siblings, other people? This takes time to observe.
So you couldn't do it in a month?
I don't. I'm a big fan of befriend a person first, so that you just see them as they are. If someone seems attractive to you, just get to be friends with their friends, and just see what they're like.
Mm-hmm. In the context of their society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you're more likely to make a better choice. It doesn't remove all the problems that come in life. That comes with everybody. But do you want someone that has an inclination of love for God, love for good, has a good disposition? Those things take time to observe.
And the choice, and this is very unpopular, we've had this encounter with our friends several times over the years. Mm-hmm. The way they set up a marriage in those days with a family arrangement, as is plainly the context here, the way Abraham does it and gets his steward involved in the choice, and the way Jacob and Rebekah do it, which is the modern way.
Yeah, and we some of us would be horrified to think of our parents picking for us, but at least get the counsel of your family, because they are more objective than you probably are.
So I like the point that self-interest is dominating the whole narrative here. Mm-hmm. Whereas back in chapter 24, when Abraham goes to find an ideal wife for his promised son, the long-delayed promised son, there's more at stake here than just a romantic interest and an attachment between two people.
Yeah. Well, who you choose doesn't just impact you; it impacts generations.
So what's our link?
What is our link?
I wrote it down, even if you didn't.
Okay.
Eros.
Oh, that's right.
The most popular of the four loves. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Four Loves, one of his most popular books, and in that he contrasts the four types of love in the Greek language, the four words for love in the Greek language, and makes the point that eros, that word, never even occurs in the New Testament, but the other three Greek words do. But nevertheless, eros is the most popular of the four loves.
That's right.
What does that say about us?
Yeah. Okay.
See you next time.